Hey there boys, today we're talking about the new sword available from Nightfall Strikes, the Slammer. I know quite a few people were excited to farm this thing right as it came out, myself included, and just really quickly before we kick things off, I did want to pretty much just thank my buddies who helped me farm this thing super quickly. We got the eager edge roll really fast. It's only like a 1 in 3 because you get 2 chances at it every roll, so it's definitely not bad. But anyway, shout out Duck and Nosy. I'll have their channels linked in the description. Duck makes content kind of like mine, and Nosy does her own speedrunning. She actually just got a world record for something, so make sure you go check them out. Also, if you enjoy this video and you like my content, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment and stuff. It would be much appreciated. But let's get into the video. So this is a sword you might shrug off at first if you're not aware of some of the finer details, but let's go ahead and have a look at them because it actually gets really interesting. So the first thing, and as you saw in the thumbnail, I believe it's actually bugged right now with permeability, and it's making its default element strand instead of stasis, which I think is actually better than stasis right now because of the seasonal mods we have. That being said, it's not really a big deal, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of goofy that it's defaulting to the wrong element with permeability, so I just thought that was funny. But the real big deal is actually in Eager Edge. This is the latest sword with Eager Edge, and it is the only one that isn't one of the two Dares swords to have Eager Edge. And when we first saw this sword and that it had Eager Edge, if you saw that video, you'll know that I was definitely excited to just see a new sword with Eager Edge, but it wasn't going to be able to be enhanced, and so I wasn't sure it would be able to compete with the old swords which were able to be enhanced. However, Bungie recently released that when Final Shape drops, there's going to be more weapons that can be enhanced, and the Slammer was on the list of weapons which will have enhanced perks retroactively. This means that you can farm the Slammer right now, get your God roll, and it will be able to be enhanced in the future. However, you should still farm it now for use right now, because it actually has a better heavy attack for Eager Edge. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but there's something about the animation that makes it go farther and faster than adaptive frames with Eager Edge. This was something that we actually first discovered during the crafting when we started applying Eager Edge to a bunch of different swords, and it was found that Vortex frames have the best Eager Edge compatibility. They just go faster on heavy attacks. However, we have the problem right now that it cannot be enhanced. So currently, the light attacks are worse than adaptives because they are the same animation. However, the heavy attack will send you farther now, even unenhanced, compared to enhanced Eager Edge on the adaptive frame swords. And more importantly, this applies to well skating, which means that you can actually well skate faster than before using this new sword. And to be honest, a lot of the time this isn't really going to matter. Most well skates are already very safe and very close anyway. However, there are a couple of specific spots where you typically had to use mobility to make the well skate, and I believe that now you might be able to make them without mobility, which obviously will help with time spent changing loadouts. That being said, the sword does have one crippling downfall, and I think it's going to probably end up turning a lot of people off of it. And basically, it requires you to do a very fast skate, otherwise it ends up costing ammo whenever you do the skate. That being said, if you're very good at well skating and you're very consistent at getting the fast timing and getting a very tight grouping of buttons together, you will certainly be able to do the skate without using ammo. However, it will occasionally end up costing you ammo, and even the best of skaters are going to do that occasionally. And this does obviously lead to a level of inconsistency, which I think might turn a lot of people off of it, especially after encounters where they are recovering from having used all their rockets on the boss and then switch to Eager. You're going to have more ammo now in case you end up using ammo skating. To combat this, you want to be as close to the ledge as you can be and run your combo as tight as possible. That's how you avoid it. If you have to do the swing later in the animation, that's when it ends up using heavy ammo, and if you are farther from the ledge, you need to do your well later, which means that you'll end up using ammo. So that's how you want to be using this one to do the skating. So to pretty much sum it up right now, I would only use this in the specific spots where you need a faster well skate. Otherwise, I'd keep using the old ones for now, mainly because they're enhanced. However, after we get this enhanced, I think it will definitely be better than the old ones as long as you have the skill to do a fast skate combo and not use your ammo. Now, I did also want to briefly touch on the fourth column, because this is also where the sword shines. It has much better fourth column perks for an Eager Edge sword than our old Eager Edge swords. We pretty much have damage perks and like relentless strikes, I think, on the arc one, which is like whatever, they really don't matter for Eager Edge. However, with this one, we have some really good utility perks for a sword that we're not trying to do damage with or add clear with, we just want utility. I personally, and I know most of my friends, are the most excited to get Cold Steel with it. Most of the time, I don't think the perk is really going to come into play, but there will be some situations where you might be doing easier content with Eager Edge on, and it's nice to be able to stun an Overload champion using it. And it could even do a unstop in a pinch as well. Just in general, for a sword that's not designed for ag clear or DPS, and just for pure utility, I do think Cold Steel is pretty good. And I know that I've always talked shit about Cold Steel in the past on the other sword that has it, but that's because that sword is one of the other many swords that are just designed for DPS, just like most swords are. The other two big options on it, I think, are going to be Permeability and Demolitionist. Demolitionist is obviously nice because you can just get your grenade back by killing a few ads with the sword. And Permeability, this might be the most niche part. Aside from the glitch right now, which makes it default to Strand, which I believe is caused by Permeability because none of my friends had it and I was the only one that had Permeability. So I'm just going with that, but I might be totally wrong. So we're definitely going to look at more into why this sword is Strand for me. But anyway, the reason I think Permeability, even in its intended state, could still be good is because you could basically make it match a scavenger mod of a different element, which I think is really nice. A lot of the time, it's best to match your subclass with the weapons you're using anyway with stuff like Solar and Strand, so that you can use harmonic mods, and also because they just tend to have good synergies, stuff like Empyrean or Unraveling Rounds, that kind of thing. Whatever it is, it can be pretty helpful to have your subclass matching your weapons, as long as you're not sacrificing a better weapon to match subclass elements. In these specific situations where you'd be using, for example, a Solar subclass and a Solar Scavenger, you could get value out of Solar Scavenger on this sword by having Permeability. And finally, I want to talk about the fact that it can be Adept. Because it's Adept, it's able to get the Adept Backup Mag mod, which is really good. If you didn't know, Adept Backup Mag basically is like regular Backup Mag, but it gives more ammo even more so, and it also reduces your handling at the cost of that extra ammo. However, swords actually don't have a handling stat, and it is not in any way affecting the sword. So it's basically a completely free ammo bump, and if you combine this with any of the blades that add even a little bit of ammo, you hit the max ammo cap right away, which is very nice. This also makes it even more conducive for doing the froggy trick, which is where you kill yourself without any ammo increasing on, and then while you're dead, put on a bunch of things that increase the reserves, and then respawn, and you end up with free ammo. Obviously, this is going to make it the new best sword for that. However, it might not be the best sword for general oobing because you will be using up ammo when you skate occasionally, which might not be ideal. And finally, we're going to talk about just the damage potential because that's what most swords are for. You could go for a Relentless Strike's bait and switch roll, and this is honestly a pretty goofy setup. However, it does have one specific niche, which I think could make it useful still, and that's going to be the shorter damage phases. If you have to reproc bait and switch on this weapon, it is automatically just not going to be worth using over Whirlwind Blade, because Whirlwind Blade you can keep the buff indefinitely once you have it going. So the advantage of bait and switch versus Whirlwind buff is simply that bait and switch activates immediately, however also doesn't last as long as Whirlwind. So if you are going to be using this sword for damage for any reason, then bait and switch could be an okay setup, but you need to remember that it should only be used in damage phases that aren't going to go longer than like 15 seconds. It's also important to note that vortex frames are not very good for damage, adaptive frames are pretty much just better, and I really wouldn't recommend using this in any of the current situations, but maybe in the future we'll end up with a sword DPS encounter that requires us to go for about 15 seconds, and it might actually be good there. But currently we only really use swords on a couple of bosses, mainly Crota, and pretty much all of them have over 30 seconds for the damage phases, so I wouldn't recommend it for any of those. Anyways, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!